Once again, apologies. This is continuation of Hexagrams 36, Concealment of Illumination, and 52, Mountain. We're reading Changing Line 1 of Hexagram 36, Concealment of Illumination, in James Dekorne's Gnostic Book of Changes, which is the most focused part of the reading. It puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself, takes precedence over all other elements, and is the most focused part of the reading. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. In such a case, he feels it right not to eat. Wilhelm/Baines. It is the obligation of the superior man to refrain from eating during his wanderings. Blofeld. It is the duty of the superior man to go without food for 3 days if his activities require this of him. Ritsuma/Karcher. A Chunsu, or chief son, or superior person, tending towards moving, righteously not taking in indeed. Clary 2. It is right that they do not eat. This is like a just person fleeing a vicious tyrant. Such is the speed of travel that they do not have the leisure to eat for 3 days. Wu. For righteousness' sake, he refuses to eat. Leg. Line 1 is dynamic and in its right place. He should be going forward, but the general signification of the hexagram supposes him to be wounded. The wound received at the commencement of the action is but slight. It suggests a bird hurts so that it must droop its wings. The subject then appears directly as the superior man. He understands that he must desist from the struggle for a time, and is so wrapped in the thought that he can fast for 3 days and not think of it. When he does withdraw, opposition may follow him, but he holds to his own purpose. The commentary says that he does not purposely fast, but when he has nothing to eat, he doesn't complain. He thinks it right that it should be so in this case. Notes and paraphrases. Sue. At the outset, the man encounters hostility and derision in his attempt to soar above all obstacles. He does not compromise, but perseveres in his thinking and remains true to his principles. People do not understand him. Wing. An attempt to rise above the obstacles in your environment will be met with hostility. If you decide to serve your personal drives and compromise the needs of society, you will be misunderstood and censured. Such is the difficulty of the position. Editor. Flying, air is the realm of thought. To fly is to move in the realm of ideas, to think, speculate, reason. Drooping wings is wounded in the realm of thought. Impaired thinking, inferior conceptualization, crippled by faulty ideas or incomplete information, clipped wings. He does not eat, or he doesn't jump to conclusions, but reasons it out to the end. 3 days, a period of completion. The Chinese say that numbers begin at 1 and are made perfect at 3. In Gaskell's Dictionary of Scriptures and Myths. People speak derisively, or subordinate elements within the psyche, emotions, etc., clamor for resolution, easy answers, etc. Psychologically, this combination of symbols points to a confused situation which demands careful differentiation. Though answers may not be forthcoming immediately, be patient and you will get what you seek. The line can also refer to painfully following one's path regardless of consequences. Compare with symbolism of fourth line correlate. A quote from Joseph Campbell in The Hero with 1,000 Faces. In a word, the first work of the hero is to retreat from the world scene of secondary effects to those causal zones of the psyche where the difficulties really reside. And there too clarify the difficulties. Eradicate them in his own case, i.e. give battle to the nursery demons of his local culture, and break through to the undistorted direct experience and assimilation of what C.G. Jung has called the archetypal images. This is the process known to Hindu and Buddhist philosophy as viveka, or discrimination. James Dekorne breaks Changing Line 1 down into one possible succinct definition. A. Your thinking is confused and requires a new point of view. Don't jump to easy conclusions. Even though you are anxious to resolve the issue, you are obliged to reason it through to the end. And changing line 6. Leg. The 6th line, magnetic, shows the case where there is no light, but only obscurity. Its subject had at first ascended to the top of the sky. Her future shall be to go into the earth. Wilhelm/Bain's not light, but darkness. First he climbed up to heaven, then he plunged into the depths of the earth. Blofeld, nothing to lighten the darkness. Having once climbed to heaven, he later descended into the earth. Clary too, in the darkness of ignorance, first ascending to heaven, later going underground. Wu, knowing not how to use the spirit of dimness, he first ascends to heaven and then falls into the depths of the earth. Commentary. Confucius/Leg, she might have enlightened the 4 quarters of the kingdom. She has failed to fulfill the model of a ruler. Wilhelm/Baines, thus he might have been able to illuminate the lands of all the 4 quarters of the earth because he had lost the rule. Blofeld, he illumined the 4 quarters of the empire. His descent into the earth means that he transgressed divine law. Ritzema/Karcher, illuminating the 4 cities indeed, letting go by consequence indeed. Clary too, first ascending to heaven is lighting up the nations. Later going underground is losing guidance. Wu, he first ascends to heaven when his brightness shines at the 4 corners of the kingdom, and then falls into the depths of the earth when he violates the code of conduct. Leg. Line 6 shows the fate of the ruler who opposes the officer who would do her good and intelligent service. Instead of becoming as the sun, enlightening all from the height of the sky, she is as the sun, hidden below the earth. Notes and paraphrases. Sue. There's only darkness. The ruler opposes officers capable of good and intelligent service. He does not shower blessings upon his people, but ignores his duties and responsibilities for increasing the common good. Wing. The current trend is coming to an end. The bad times are consuming themselves and will become but a memory. Those who once struggled to control the situation will fall back into obscurity. Editor. This line is the Lord of Darkness oppressing the entire hexagram. Psychologically interpreted, the ego has not seen the light. Because this line changes the hexagram to number 22, persona, there is a hint that some sort of egocentric vanity may be involved. A quote from Swedenborg in Heaven and Hell. Hence it is that they shun the light of heaven and cast themselves down into their own light. A light which is like the light from glowing coals, and in some places like that from burning sulfur. But even this light is turned into thick darkness when any particle of light from heaven flows in there. James Dekorne breaks changing line 6 down into 3 possible succinct definitions, A, B, and C. A, you had clarity, then you lost it. B, an image of the source of darkness, ignorance or negativity in the situation at hand. And C, a negative element about to be eliminated. Now I will get a randomly card drawn verse or verses from the Tao Te Ching while summing up the reading. I apologize that it's broken up into 3 videos. The storage on my phone was apparently more than I expected, and each time I deleted huge chunks of data, didn't do much, so I had to start and restart the phone, and then it showed me more storage available. Anywho, the primary hexagram 36, Concealing Illumination, has Li, fire and light, below Kun, earth. So it's like light hidden within the earth. This is a situation where someone who is illuminated or enlightened is among people that would swallow him up if that illumination, or they could be damaged if that illumination were spread as bright as it is within. So it's almost like the hermit existing instead of out on a mountain just in society, but nobody understanding that it's a hermit. Maybe just thinks he's a bum or something. Something like that. And that is something that the hermit does on purpose in this instance because of the negative effects it would have. So it's concealing enlightenment within, and also in an alchemical way, it's not allowing the firing process to go without end. It's finding the golden elixir to be crystallized, and then once it is, not damaging it by keeping the firing going. So it's pretty necessary not to be completely overwhelmed with energy and just fizzle out and burn. Our supporting hexagram 52 mountain shows Gen Mountain, the trigram Gen Mountain above Gen Mountain. And so it's stillness within and stillness without. And inner stillness, from inner stillness, outer stillness comes. And that doesn't mean empty quietism, is what Louis Ming said, but in his Taoist teaching. But that action comes out of stillness and is itself a sort of stillness. Also, in James Dekorne's Gnostic Book of Changes, it was talking about how there was a certain amount of balance that was being done with 52 mountain. Oops. Something super interesting about that, because that was something that came up recently. Come on, baby. Scroll. There it is. A quote from Robert Svoboda. I'm going to read the introduction to this quote first. Regulation of the psyche's autonomous manifestations in accordance with the will of the self is for the purpose of gaining a controlling influence over one's karma. As stated herein many times, you as ego are nothing more than a tool created by the self for the direction of its own destiny. And this is the quote by Robert Svoboda in Agora 3, The Law of Karma. Both karma theory and quantum mechanics refuse to accept that observers can exist independent of the systems they observe. Spiritual science goes so far as to take the observer's own internal universe and its states as its experimental field. For it is within that field that karma is produced and stored. The matter from which we and our obstructions are created includes both the dense physical material from which our bodies are built and the thoughts, attitudes, and emotions that make up our minds. Tantric practice is karmic engineering within this field of name and form, orchestration of substance and action into result. This is the key point. First, you direct new causes against previous effects to nullify adverse influences on your awareness. Then you unleash yet further actions to negate the influence of the nullifying actions. So it's almost like a constant back and forth of steadying and balancing. And it says, how any ego could tackle such responsibilities with any hope of progress is impossible to imagine without the direction of the self. Keeping still certainly has its own karmic consequences, but when not choosing, implied in this hexagram, is done in accordance with the self's will and intent, the results slowly lead to ever higher levels of awareness, eventually into realms beyond the physical. So then we get to our changing lines, and in those, they're the most focused part of the reading. They take precedence over all other elements and put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. The first line showed someone flying with their wings, and then they didn't eat for 3 days, and then their wings drooped. And James Dekorne was kind enough to try and make sense of all that. He says, air is the realm of thought. To fly is to move in the realm of ideas. To think, speculate, reason. Drooping wings are wounded in the realm of thought. Impaired thinking, inferior conceptualization, crippled by faulty ideas or incomplete information, clipped wings. He does not eat, he doesn't jump to conclusions, but reasons it out to the end. 3 days is a period of completion. People speak derisively of him. The subordinate elements within the psyche, emotions, etc., clamor for resolution, easy answers, etc. Psychologically, this combination of symbols points to a confused situation which demands careful differentiation. Though answers may not be forthcoming immediately, be patient and you will get what you seek. The line can also refer to painfully following one's path regardless of consequences. And James Dekorne breaks changing line 1 down into one possible succinct definition. Your thinking is confused and requires a new point of view. Don't jump to easy conclusions, even though you are anxious to resolve the issue. You are obliged to reason it through to the end. And then changing line 6. This was the dark entity, if you want to call it that, that's holding the whole hexagram down. The concealment, the darkness that's concealing the light. Editor says, this line is the Lord of Darkness, oppressing the entire hexagram. Psychologically interpreted, the ego has not seen the light. Because this line changes the hexagram to number 22, persona, there is a hint that some sort of egocentric vanity may be involved. There was another thing that wasn't so negative about it. Just insinuating that things were going to get better. Now I'm having a hard time finding that section. I guess he says it here, though. He breaks changing line 6 down into 3 possible succinct definitions, A, B, and C. A, you had clarity, then you lost it. B, an image of the source of darkness, ignorance, or negativity in the situation at hand. And then C, a negative element about to be eliminated. Also, I do want to read some of the sections out of the...
Here's what I found.
Siri from the... Jeez. Confusing. 36 great power... No, this is 34. We got great power the other day, though. 36 concealment of illumination. This is out of the alchemical, especially alchemically section of Liu Yiming's Taoist Te Ching, the commentary on each of our hexagrams. I'm just going to read a short section from each. What superior people see in this is that when practitioners of the Tao are among the masses, if they use their illumination too much, they will startle the ignorant and amaze the worldly, easily bringing on abuse and slander. Therefore, superior people deal with the masses by acting unobtrusively, even though they are in fact illumined. Dealing with the masses means facing the unenlightened with enlightenment. Acting unobtrusively means concealing enlightenment and nurturing it. The beings produced by heaven and earth are not equal. The masses of people are not equal in terms of intelligence. There is a mixture of aberration and sanity, and everyone is an individual. How can every individual be totally good? Acting unobtrusively in dealing with people means dealing with them on their own terms, seeing the totality as one organism. That's the key thing that I was trying to get to. This means having a quality of breadth like that of the earth, which supports everything and accepts everything, being responsive to everything in an adaptive way. But acting unobtrusively does not mean that one does not use illumination at all. It means that one is outwardly unnoticeable, but free from inward obscurity. So there is inner light within outer darkness. One is able to distinguish in every case who is wise and who is foolish, who is aberrated and who is sane. But though one harmonizes with others, one is not influenced. And though one associates with others, one does not become clannish. One's patterns of activity and passivity, absence and presence are indiscernible to others. One is like the sun, which is bright when it rises, but also bright in secret when it has set. This is what is meant by the saying that a great hermit may well live in the city. What's interesting is, I think 2 days ago, or maybe 4 days ago, one of our hexagrams was great power, hexagram 34. And in it, it shows the sun at the height of the noon sky. But in Concealment of Illumination, it's at midnight. So it's the exact opposite of that, which is interesting. And then our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 52 mountains. In the commentary section, it says, what superior people see in this is that the inherent goodness in people is the place wherein people are human, where they should remain all their lives and never leave for a moment. Therefore, they emulate the image of joining mountains and think without leaving their place. In both social and spiritual life, investigating truth and distinguishing right from wrong, people cannot dispense with thought. But if the thought is right, then they are in their place. While if the thought is wrong, they are out of place. It is important that all thoughts stop in their proper place and do not lose their original reality. If practitioners of the Tao are able to think in their place, the mind of Tao is ever present and the human mentality is forever quiescent. No external objects can influence them, so there is no harm to thought. Do-nothing quietists may say they forget about things and forget about their own bodies, not thinking at all, but this has nothing to do with the Tao of nature and life of body and mind, and is also one form of being out of place. Being in place means being immutable, stabilized in the right way. Thought that is properly stabilized encompasses all reason and responds to all things. Though one thing all day, never being out of place, it is as though there were no thought. Indeed, when you know the One, all tasks are done. If you do not know the One, then thought is out of place. How many students in the world know the One? So, breaking things down a little bit more, trying to make things a little bit more summed up. You have a hermit, concealing illumination. One of the things said, a great sage may well live in the city. And that might be the image here, is that due to the environment and the idea of the superior person or the person that's attempting to emulate the superior person, they be surrounded in darkness, there's still an ability to keep that hermit's lantern and keep the light lit with us in any circumstance, and understand that life is like, all things are like an organism. So we don't live in a vacuum, and what's good for and the well-being of all is something that I believe is at the forefront of the sage's mind. And that being because in the commentary section on mountain in Lu Yiming's Tao Te Ching, he was saying that how many students of the Tao know the One? When you know the One, all jobs are complete. So in that sense, these two are really related, the two hexagrams. One is knowing that all things are like an organism and all interact with one another. And the other one is saying keeping still and having stillness spring from action. And in fact, it's almost like the ego's job as a switchboard to relay energy and direct activity, it's determined by the will of the self and not just whatever the ego complex wants to set it to its own task whenever it wants. It's something that is steady, like a samurai holding a sword, ready to fight. So the stillness has action within it, and the action springs out from the stillness, but it's right action. And so there's a balance that's required. Like, right action, I think, was one of the things that was really spoken of, that was required in that hexagram. So then our changing lines show that, so the first one where his wings droop and he doesn't eat for 3 days. It's like it gave the example of different sages in history that were oppressed by a mad, or like a horrible ruler, and they feigned madness even though they were enlightened because of the circumstances of the time. So that's very similar, that understanding the circumstances of the time, one does whatever one must do, which might require 3 days without food because of swiftly going from one place to another, or whatever the will of the self might require at the time. The ego would consider, in this instance, just not even a sacrifice, essentially. Oh, yeah, that was line 1. And then line 6 was like the darkness that is shrouding the sun. If it's like the image of midnight, then it might even be just the earth and its direction to the sun being away from it. So the earth itself is the thing that's the shadow over the sun. Interesting. And one positive thing about that changing line is that it has to do with, if that's the darkest time, then the only place to go is more illumination. So, breaking it down even further, the sage that conceals their illumination must have right action and balance and be still. And if the outside circumstances are oppressive, understanding that reality is like an organism and understanding the one, not being able to see the highest from the highest perspective, what the ego can do in any circumstance is understand its limitations and know that it doesn't know hardly anything. What we know is conjecture, and if we don't add a giant question mark into the equation and understand our limitation of thought and mental activity, we run the risk of damaging the work by assuming we know what direction it's going. And so it would be wise to be understanding of the times we're in and what we're up against. And hopefully the time to have the midnight move from darkness to the dawn, Hopefully we will be in a state ready and prepared, doing our best to nurture the concealed light within, so that when the sun rises, it will be a time where the light within us isn't so bright that it causes shock to those around us, and that at that time we can support that light coming in and be the dawn with the dawn, and be responsive and ready to take action when the time is right. All things according to the time. The verses we'll read from the Tao Te Ching, my copy is by Jia Fu Feng and Jane English, are going to be 17 and 54. Verse 17 from the Tao Te Ching. The very highest is barely known by men. Then comes that which they know and love. Then that which is feared. Then that which is despised. He who does not trust enough will not be trusted. When actions are performed without unnecessary speech, people say, "We did it." And 54. What is firmly established cannot be uprooted. What is firmly grasped cannot slip away. It will be honored from generation to generation. Cultivate virtue in yourself, and virtue will be real. Cultivate it in the family, and virtue will abound. Cultivate it in the village, and virtue will grow. Cultivate it in the nation, and virtue will be abundant. Cultivate it in the universe, and virtue will be everywhere. Therefore, look at the body as body. Look at the family as family. Look at the village as village. Look at the nation as nation. Look at the universe as universe. How do I know the universe is like this? By looking. Sorry.